Welcome back to the Detox Your Dome podcast. Today we are joined by Ella Wahlestedt, founder of Layermor Fragrance, a non-toxic, ingredient transparent, EWG-Verified fragrance company. Ella is an entrepreneur, she's a creative, and she cares about your health when it comes to choosing non-toxic fine fragrances. We cover so much in this episode. Ella teaches us about the dangers of traditional fragrances, ingredients to avoid, her entrepreneurship journey, the EWG verification process, and how she formulates clean, non-toxic fragrances. I definitely now feel more confident in my understanding of the fragrance industry, and I hope that you feel the same. With that, let's get started. Welcome to Detox Your Dome, the podcast, where we empower you with knowledge about the ingredients that make up the products that we use every day. And we help you to become a more informed consumer on your journey towards living a clean, safe, and toxin-free lifestyle. Detox Your Dome. Body, home, planet. We are so excited to be sitting down today with Ella Wahlestedt. We have so much to talk about with Ella. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I think we should rewind the tapes and just bring it back to the start. I'd love to understand when you had an awakening to low tox living.
Growing up, I wouldn't say I was in a low tox house. So I come from a medical family. My parents are doctors and scientists. So health and wellness was always kind of part of our ethos and the general consciousness in our household, but low tox, I don't even think was a thing back then. And so it wasn't until actually a couple of years ago when I was going on my own wellness journey, dealing with hormonal dysregulation, as so many people do, that I started actually looking at the labels more closely, being more discerning about the products I'm putting on and in my body. And fragrance, obviously, is a huge culprit. It's pretty much the first thing they tell you to cut out. And so that was a huge bummer for me because I've always been a fragrance girly through and through.
What was your favorite fragrance growing up? Yeah, everyone has one.
Middle school to high school you. What were you going for?
In middle school, I remember my first perfume so perfectly. It was those Harajuku dolls. There was 5 different scents, and of course I had to have the whole collection. And I was obsessed.
And you would drench your body, head to toe, course. Walk into it. You were basically ingesting
I'm gagging
it.
Everybody else.
Right.
I was a big Taylor Swift Wonderstruck girl.
Oh my God.
To this day, one of my best friends from high school, she's like, if I walk by someone who's wearing Taylor Swift Wonderstruck, I'm immediately taken back to high school you, because I wore it every single day for the 4 years. And then I think they discontinued it, and I was going in the black market trying to find it. I'm trying to find the tiniest bottles because I was just obsessed with it.
So my family was interesting. My dad hated perfume. We were not allowed to have perfume in the house. So honestly, good in hindsight.
Yeah.
But my perfume addiction didn't come until college. And it was Sephora,
the forbidden fruit,
vanilla. It's vanilla coconut.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I love it. Did you always know you wanted to start a company?
Not necessarily. I had always been really interested in entrepreneurship. I had caught the entrepreneurship bug when I was probably in high school. I just loved anything innovation related. I love the idea that you can make a real impact on the world through your work. And I knew that if I were going to spend a lot of time doing anything, we devote so much time to our work. I was might as well make it mean something. And so entrepreneurship was kind of the vessel for that. And I didn't know exactly what that looked like for me. I thought for a while I was going to go into cognitive science or neuroscience or engineering. I went through so many phases until I ended up studying business in college, which was kind of a great catch-all. And it was actually the #1 school for entrepreneurship. So I pigeonholed myself from the get-go. But it was a great experience because I got to start a lot of businesses in college and fail at them in a safe space. And so that kind of set me on the trajectory of believing that I can do this in a sustainable and potentially successful way.
So when you graduated college, did you start a corporate job, or did you go right into starting your own company?
So I actually ended up going into, kind of a corporate job. It was at a startup, actually in film and TV. I actually was a film TV teen actress. So I had that background too. And then...
See it, honestly.
Thanks.
Yeah. The on-camera presence.
Thank you. I was totally a thespian, did all of the theater camps growing up. And then, I ended up doing a couple films and TV shows and things like that. was definitely living like a Hannah Montana life. And so post college, I ended up like going back into that, and I still love film and TV. I'm actually still a part-time producer, but it like takes up like 5% of my time, and like I feel like I've completely switched gears and I'm all in on Layermor, and I just couldn't be more excited because I so missed having like a consumer product that's tangible, that you can feel, you can smell, and something that actually has a meaningful impact in the world. So yeah, I'm so grateful to be where I'm at and doing what I do.
When you were in that like in between period where you were producing and then you were thinking about starting your own company, how did you realize like the checks and balances with like completely going full speed ahead into Layermor? Like what was what was going on in your brain? Was it very much like logistics and money motivated, or did you just kind of jump into the deep end and hope for the best?
I feel like nothing's like completely linear. It's like not X then Y, but at that time I was kind of like miserable in my old job and was like, what am I doing? And I think a lot of people can relate to this. And I just have always been like a fragrance girl. I've always just been like a product junkie. And so I had always jokingly said like, oh, what if I just had my own perfume? Not thinking it was like actually going to happen. And then I think one day I was probably having like an existential crisis, as one does. And I was like, why am I not doing this? I'm like, now is the time. I have no kids, no like serious obligations really, and some savings. And I really want to create this, but I knew that if I were to create it, it had to be one, clean and ingredient transparent, because dealing with my own kind of health issues and navigating the clean living space, I knew that there was just few options on the market that actually catered towards something that I actually needed and would use. That smelled great and lasted long. And then the second component to that was I knew it needed to be long lasting. I think a lot of clean options fail in that regard. And our fragrances are ultra long lasting. But then one thing that my mom actually kind of taught me growing up was like this concept of scent layering. So combining multiple different scented products so that you're able to create this long lasting, cohesive scent experience that lasts all day long. And so I integrated that concept. There's like an art, there's a science to it. And yeah, that's pretty much how Layermor was born. If there was a moment where I was like, okay, yes, full speed ahead, let's do it, it was probably when I found my manufacturer. Like that was a really key clicking point for me, because I knew if I were to do this in the most responsible way, then I needed to partner with somebody who was able to match my values. So I ended up, interviewing so many different manufacturers, and some of them just operate with such high, what are called MOQs, minimum order quantities. So as a small fledgling startup, they're not wanting to work with me. Others would not and could not abide to the EWG standards that I knew from the get-go I wanted to formulate to, for a variety of reasons. Like they didn't want to exert the effort or time on like a single customer. There's a lot of IP in this space too, which I'm sure we'll definitely get into, since fragrance is considered a trade secret. So yeah, there's a lot of hiccups in finding a manufacturer. And then when I actually found the one that I work with now, it was like a match made in heaven. It's a woman-owned lab, which is amazing. She had just started it, but she had been in the fragrance industry for 25 plus years and also saw the pitfalls of it from a clean, or rather not clean standpoint. It's a very dirty industry. And it was the first validated ingredient transparent lab, which was really key to me.
Well, I, for one, am obsessed with the fragrances. I have them here, actually. So we got the body oil, the hair perfume, and then the body perfume. The hair perfume, I think, is my most used product. I literally give a little spritz to my Monica. Give me a sniff. Tell me what you're getting.
Sniff test.
Sniff test.
Wait, I'm obsessed with it. It's perfect.
It gives classy, sophisticated,
it is so good,
but still a little girly, not to be
and
ageist
so
or anything, but I feel like
necessary.
sometimes those classy, sophisticated scents just kind of smell like your grandma. They're just a little bit older woman, which nothing against those, but I just have never found one that I truly love. But this is still giving young, girly. I call it my Saturday night martini scent, because
I love that.
I'm I wear it on Saturday nights. It's when I'm dressing up, I'm going to get cocktails with the girls.
No, you smell sophisticated,
right?
And classy, and poised.
I smell like I should be taken seriously.
And you should. No, I'm so happy to hear that because that's exactly what we were going for. It has notes of like musk and amber, so it's definitely going to be like warm and inviting, and then a white floral, so it's a little lighter. We launched back in October, so it's been like 4 months now, and we've had really great momentum. We're like in 8 retail locations and expanding.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
And our
It's
customers.
only been 4 months. That's crazy.
Yes.
You should be so proud of
Oh,
yourself.
thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. And ultimately, I'm just really happy that people are loving the scent. That's
Love
like
it.
music to my ears. Like anytime I get like a good review or a testimonial, like I'm dancing.
And I'm not just saying this because we're recording this podcast right now. Like when I wore these all throughout Christmas, like all the different Christmas events, Christmas parties, whatever, I got compliments every single time I walked into a room. People were like,
Oh my
what are you
gosh,
wearing?
I love
Like
that.
it smelled so good.
See, like that makes me so giddy. Because that's what I want. Like I want you to feel good. I want you to smell good, all of the things. But yes, and that's why, I mean, side note, we named it Amal. I pulled that name out of thin air, and then I realized Amal Clooney was all over my like vision board for this. I was like, oh, this is,
We are fans of vision boards.
I know, I love them.
They're the best.
I do one like once a quarter. I'm obsessed.
I'm like still working on my 2025 vision board. Monica and
I
we've had a
printed
standing
my photos like
we've had a
literally
standing
months
date to
ago.
make them, and I haven't even printed my photos out.
I got 2 poster boards. I'm like, we are making these.
They're like accumulating dust in the corner.
Yes. And I'm like, and this is what happens to me every year. I'm like, oh, well, it's the end of February. Now it's like, what do you like this? It just needs to be my 2026 vision board at this point.
No,
I have the photos on my Pinterest. They just haven't been printed
that's
out.
like
There
half
you
the
go.
battle.
Yeah.
Is getting the photos.
Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah.
basically there. And you can always
Exactly.
start at like Q2. I know I
Right.
sound
There
so
you go.
corporate for that, but
Right.
like
No, you're so right. I needed
Yeah.
that. Okay, so Ella, I'd love for you to talk us through the current fragrance market. I feel like a lot of people who are in this low tox, non-tox living space do understand like the dangers of fragrances and kind of understand like what's going on in the United States. But I also feel like there's a lot of people who are new to this space and really haven't been given like a complete overview as to why fragrances are so dangerous and like why we need to be more conscious of them.
yeah, fragrance is one of those terms that you always see on labels and you don't really know what it is, and companies legally don't have to disclose what's in that term fragrance. So the reality is that it can hide up to like 3,100 undisclosed ingredients, including toxins, hormone disruptors like phthalates, parabens, things like that, that are really nasty and are linked to serious health issues, like breast cancer, infertility, decreased sperm count, and developmental disorders of children. So there's over like 3 decades of research linking these things together. So the research is out there, yet so many brands still formulate with fragrance, and it's considered a trade secret. So technically, you don't have to disclose the contents of it, which is why this is pretty revolutionary, I guess, in some senses, that we are disclosing every single thing that is in our products.
Has it gotten worse in the last 30 years? Like, was it once less toxic?
It depends on which ingredients you're looking at. Like, obviously, we're not using like talc at the same rates that we once were. Like, that was, there's different ingredients that like come in and out of phases, but I would say generally it's becoming a little bit better. The problem is the US doesn't outright ban many ingredients. It actually only bans around 30 ingredients versus like the European Union, which has banned over 1,600 ingredients under that cosmetic label. So the difference is really stark and concerning. And with cosmetics, like there's no pre-market approval like there is for like pharmaceuticals. Like my dad's a scientist. He like does drug discovery for cancer, and I'm always like talking with him about his studies. And there's, you have to go through several phases with the FDA. And obviously it takes like millions and millions of dollars to roll that out, which obviously indie cosmetic brands can't really do. So in a way, that's, I guess, a pro that there's no pre-market approval, but then it's also a concern for consumer safety at the end of the day.
I feel like there's this notion that people are like, well, if it's on the shelves, if I can buy it, then it must be safe for me. Like it must be regulated. It must be safe. What are the like testing requirements for perfume and personal care products? Like, are there testing requirements?
No, there isn't.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you also think that, okay, if I'm going to go to Sephora, this is like kind of a high-end place. They're
Right.
going to have the best perfumes.
Right.
Right, exactly. And it's frustrating as a consumer because I want to be able to go to like CVS or Sephora and just pick up whatever is off the shelves and not have to worry that it's going to impact my health, but that's just not the case. And even like different stores or retailers will have different clean standards. So that's also something that's not regulated, is that term clean. When brands use it, there's no regulation around that. So it can be just empty promises as well, which is why ingredient transparency is so, so important.
So when I go find a perfume, oftentimes the ingredients aren't even on the package and I have to like look elsewhere for those ingredients. What ingredients should we stay away from?
Yeah, so the big culprits are phthalates, parabens, and formaldehyde releasing preservatives. They won't exactly say that. So you just have to get really discerning about everything. It's tough. It's really tough. But I will say there are really helpful apps out there like EWG, Healthy Living app. You can scan a label and check the ingredients and the safety of it. So Yucca is another one. So yeah, and they have like robust, at least EWG, I can't speak for Yucca, but has a really robust in-house science team that reviews everything. So going through that process was really great and beneficial. They've been great partners to us. And I think they're like the gold standard when it comes to third-party cosmetic testing.
So what are phthalates? I feel like this is sort of a new ingredient or like ingredient category that people are trying to stay away from. I feel like for the past 5-ish, 7-ish years, like you can see on a shampoo, paraben free, sulfate free, but I feel like phthalates are a recent thing that people are trying to stay away from. And if phthalates are so bad, why do products use them, or why do companies put them in their products? Like what purpose are they serving?
Yeah, phthalates are ultimately used, especially in perfume, to make a scent last longer. So yeah, and like I said, they've been linked to everything from like breast cancer, developmental disorders, infertility, things like that, even like obesity, like the list goes on. So that's definitely an ingredient group to watch out for. Parabens are like fixatives to make sure that, the shelf life is extended. So obviously there's like economic biases for why like a brand would want to use that, because they want their perfume to smell really long, like be long lasting on the skin, and also hold up on shelves for many, many months.
So there was a study that came out in February that showed just how much plastic is accumulating in our brains. This study, published in the Nature Medicine journal, found that the weight of plastic in our brains may be equivalent to that of a plastic spoon, which is terrifying to think about. They also noticed that there were higher levels of microplastics in the brains of people who had been diagnosed with dementia compared to the brains of those without dementia. Microplastics and PFAs are truly everywhere, including our water systems. They are in our tap water, our fresh water, our oceans. I'm really trying to dedicate this year to finding ways to mitigate plastic in my life, and especially in my home. One actionable way that I found to do this is to filter out the PFAs and microplastics from my water. And I'm not just talking about my drinking water, but also my shower water. I specifically chose the Ella Wahlstedt Shower Duo because it's the only shower filter on the market that has been verified to filter out PFAs and microplastics, along with all the other general contaminants like chlorine and heavy metals. All the other shower filters I was looking at are really focused on chlorine and general contaminants, which is amazing, but I ended up choosing the Ella Wahlstedt filter because it had that added benefit of mitigating those microplastics and PFAs, which was also super important to me and just made this specific filter stand out to me. I also really liked that it was truly just a filter. Like I didn't have to replace my entire shower head. I personally love my shower head, and I didn't want to have to change the entire thing. The install took no more than 10 minutes and it was super easy, and it just looks really nice in my shower. I honestly love the design and look of it. At this point, I'm sure you've heard the benefits of filtering your shower water. Not only can this have a positive impact on your overall health, but it's also beneficial on your skin and your hair. You can achieve all of those benefits with the added bonus of mitigating those plastics and PFAs with the Ella Wahlstedt Shower Duo. You can get 10% off your next purchase from Ella Wahlstedt by using the code DETOXYOURDOME at checkout. Ella Wahlstedt is spelled WEDDELL, and you can use the code DETOXYOURDOME, DETOXYOURDOME for 10% off your next order.
Do you feel like if one brand is using phthalates in one of their products, they're using it in all of their products?
Not necessarily. Like, and Sophia, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts too. I think products really vary from brand to brand. Generally speaking, if a brand is standing behind like clean formulas, they're going to come out with clean products. But sometimes brands can have like a questionable ingredient or a questionable product, and another thing might be completely safe.
Totally. I would agree with that. I feel like at this point in my like low tox, non-toxic journey, one of my biggest tips is like for people who are feeling so overwhelmed with finding products, because it's like, do I have to scan every single thing? I like at this point to just recommend brands, like blanket brands who I know are committed to these standards. Because the other thing is brands can change their product formulation at any point, and they don't really have to disclose that they're changing a product formulation. So like also why sometimes like apps are hard to use is because like the Yuka app, it's like this could be an old product formulation. So then that's also frustrating. You're like, okay, this was uploaded 3 years ago. Is this still the same formulation? And then you're like, did they change the ingredients? Did they get bought out and then change the formulation? So I agree. I love to just like stick to brand, unless I'm looking for like a very particular product. Like I do love the House Labs foundation. I don't know like about all of the other House Labs products, but I'm like, Lady Gaga knows how to make a good foundation. So I'm like, that's one product that I buy from that brand. But other than that, I really try to just stick to like overarching brands, because I feel like it makes purchasing so much easier too, to be like, okay, I need new like, I'm looking for like a new cleaning product. Like, okay, I know my 3 brands that are just like have these values and are always committed to them. Like you don't have to then always be going through ingredient lists, because it truly like becomes a part-time job. And like, it's why, I started Detox Your Dome, is because once you start to go down this path, you're like, okay, I am reading so many ingredient labels, which is a great exercise to do, but it is just time consuming. And sometimes people like don't have the ability, and then they get overwhelmed, and then they're not able to like choose anything. Yeah, I agree. I think finding brands that have values that you align with is like the best and like the simplest way to start transitioning your products.
Yeah. And honestly, I relate to that so hard, because it is really daunting and overwhelming to get into clean living. You don't really know where to start. There's just a lot of mixed signals and things like that. I always think like progress over perfection too. I think if you're starting to make like cleaner swaps, like that can make a huge difference. And there's actually studies, I think there was a study a couple of years ago that was released showing young girls who were eliminated products with like phthalates and parabens, and it had really positive outcomes like within 30 days. So the stats are promising. Like if you're starting to just reduce your overall body accumulation of these toxins, that's a great step forward. And luckily there's a lot more clean brands out there who make amazing products. Like I actually think like my clean products now perform better in some ways than like my old unclean products.
Definitely.
So yeah, they're really stepping up their game. I think, yeah, clean beauty is really exciting. I think clean fragrance is getting there too. It's kind of, I see fragrance as like that last frontier when it comes to clean beauty, just because there's that like black box of fragrance that we don't know what's behind that.
Right. I was also surprised at how fast, just like my personal anecdote to that story you said of how the positive outcomes were happening within 30 days. Like people who talk about non-toxic living, they're like, oh, and then you start to become so sensitive to fragrances, and like you go into someone's home that uses a candle, or you're sitting in someone's car that has a car freshener, like you start to smell it. And I'm like, okay, I'm living like such bare bones lifestyle for that to happen, and it happened within a month. And I only started to change a few of my products, and now it being like a year and a half of me transitioning to this lifestyle, I try to control the things I can in my home, but it's not like I don't go outside and go to my friends' houses and whatever. Like I'm still around these other products, but I can smell them immediately. I was in an Uber home from the airport over the weekend. We got in at like midnight, and you're just like want to get home, and this Uber driver had so many air fresheners. I was like, I
can't breathe.
I know, it was so bad.
You're like, I have a headache, I can't breathe, and something's gonna happen to me.
It's crazy. It's crazy how it happens.
No, you do become so sensitive to things, and like almost off put by it too. Like every time I see like one of his like Glade like plugins, I can.
Yes.
I
go around and unplug them.
Yeah. If my friend's home.
Yeah. I used to think that
people
like,
let them close enough.
I used to think that like if you had Glade in your house, like you were elite and like you had your shit together. But no, unplug that shit right now.
Yeah. I'll do it for you. So you talked to us about like the regulatory landscape, what's kind of required, which is nothing.
Well, I will say it is starting to change a little bit. So the FDA rolled out MACRA, which I think stands for Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act. They rolled it out starting in 2022. And so they're rolling it out in different phases. And it is calling for like increased accountability, which is really great for brands. Like they have to like register their facilities and products and ingredients, but there's still that fragrance loophole. So that's not a step forward, obviously. Other things are like now the FDA can mandate recalls, which they couldn't do before. Step in the right direction, which is great. Yeah, companies that have to like disclose if somebody has like an adverse reaction that leads to like hospitalization. They have to disclose that within 15 days. But like, honestly, that shouldn't be happening in the first place. So that's a whole other thing. I largely feel like MACRA is kind of more of a reactionary approach than it is proactive. It's definitely a step forward in the right direction, don't get me wrong, but it's not outright banning ingredients like the European Union does. Like the EU, like I said, they ban like over 1,600 and the US still only bans 30 when it comes to cosmetics. So there's a really stark difference there.
Do you have like, I guess you mentioned it a little bit before, but like I'm thinking of like my sister, right? She's a millennial. Has no idea I don't even think she knows what non-toxic means. And I know what she would say. She would say, but perfume, you just put a little bit of it on your body and it's okay. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, yes, I hear that too. And it's ultimately a problem of like bioaccumulation. So the average person uses so many cosmetics or personal care products throughout the day. And if each one of those has a little bit of toxin, that accumulates in your body and can lead to those adverse health effects. So yes, okay, small dosage, like, but ultimately it's a serious health concern.
Yeah, it all comes together. Also, like when I put perfume on, I'm like spraying it on my face, like I'm ingesting it.
Yeah, like I'm taking a shower in this.
Yeah,
shower
it's going everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like our skin is the largest organ on our body, so it's going to absorb like anything that's on the skin, and then you're also inhaling it, so it's going to course throughout your body anyway. And I think fragrance is an interesting, it's a little bit different than like clean beauty, which is like only really affecting yourself. Like when you're spraying fragrance, other people are smelling that too, like your kids and your pets and things like that. So it becomes more of a public safety concern at that point.
I know when you started, you were trying to regulate your hormones, and that was the whole start of the journey. How has your health been impacted by your low tox journey?
Yeah, it's been a world of a difference. I mean, and like hormonal, like clean living, all of the things, like there's so many components to it as well. Like you have to look at nutrition, you have to look at exercise. We just did actually a really fun like IG live discussion with a hormone health coach on the Layermor channel. So like the hormone health is something that I'm just personally really interested in. And I think others are too, but I've definitely seen an improvement. When I was kind of going through that journey, I like nerded out. Like I read so many books about it, so many studies. I just was really fascinated by it. And so I started making these gradual shifts towards like a healthier, clean living lifestyle and started seeing that pay off. Am I perfect? No. But like we're moving closer to that. And I'm learning what works with my body and what doesn't too. Everything from like, even just like my, morning schedule and like, like there's different.
I love a good morning routine. What is your favorite thing about your morning routine?
Yeah. So I actually just recently started the artist way. So I'll wake up. Have you done this before?
What is
this? It's like a program. It's a book. I like started it, and I didn't like follow through, which is bad of me. Just like completely not the point. But I did start doing the artist dates. Yeah. It's like once a week you take yourself on a date and you do something that fulfills you. That was my biggest takeaway. And I still try to do that.
Yeah,
but
I love
tell us about the
dates.
Artist's Way, because I think it's so amazing, and there will be a point in my life that I do it.
Yeah. And it's funny. I also started like years ago when I was in a very different headspace and had a horrible experience. I stopped like
No.
week 5. It goes up to week 12.
Yep.
But I'm really liking it this time. But the reason I say morning routine is because like the first thing you're supposed to do when you wake up is do 3 pages of like morning pages. And that can literally be anything. It's just like, you're not supposed to have a filter. You're supposed to, it just helps you like get rid of that like negative self-talk or whatever. Just get it out all on the page, so that you're able to like clear everything for creative development. The whole program is really about like unlocking creativity and fueling just inspiration and growth.
You're inspiring me to start it. I feel like I also think when
interested.
I was doing it, like I was working a full corporate job, and I was just like, I don't know. It wasn't really hitting. So now I'm inspired to do it again. I am very curious about the whole EWG process, and I want to like go in. I want to understand like what it means to be an EWG verified fragrance, like what the screening process was, how is that part of building your brand? Like I want to know everything.
And what does EWG stand for?
Let's start there.
Yeah, let's go way back.
Yeah, starting from ground zero. EWG stands for Environmental Working Group. They're a third-party organization that has a database where they list products, and they list an associated score from 1 to 10 based off of their safety. They also take some environmental concerns into account as well. And I consider them to be like the gold standard when it comes to clean assessment. So from the get-go, even before we started formulating, I knew that I wanted our fragrances to meet EWG standards. And so with that in mind, we formulated everything per their standard. They have their standards are actually like publicly available. So they have a restricted list and they have a ban list. And it pretty much directly reflects EU standards, Canada standards. So they don't allow any ingredients that have been banned in the EU, Canada, or California. So it is like the highest clean bar. And then in terms of like the actual process, like I had started my conversations with them even like as we were formulating, just to get that process started. Really seamless. I love their team over there, and they're constantly like having meetings and public forums and things like that. They also have like an in-house science team that reviews every product. I think it would probably be more difficult, like if any company just wanted to get like EWG verified, because their standards are so high. But I think because we formulated from the get-go with their standards in mind, it was just a very seamless process. Like it took probably 12 weeks, I want to say.
Nice. And was it like one product at a time, or did you push everything through at the same time?
Yeah, I pushed everything through at the same time. It was 3 products. It was our perfume, our body oil, and our hair perfume, all with the same scent. And another thing is they obviously like mandate that you have total ingredient transparency. So that's probably another reason why people might be a little bit hesitant to go through that program, because they don't want to disclose what's in their fragrance, but they require it.
And for total ingredient transparency, if you see the word fragrance on there, does that count as an ingredient?
Yeah, so they'll label
and that's
it.
the big problem.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
I don't know what that score is, but it's not a cute score. They're big on like ingredient transparency, which is something that we also agree with.
How many like perfumes right now are EWG verified?
So only 9. So we're one of 9 perfumes to be EWG
in the US?
verified. Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's insanity.
Yeah.
Are you able to track, like, is there a lot of traffic coming through EWG, or is it from like other organic channels? Because I know, like, for me, at least at the start of my journey towards transitioning to low tox living, I would go to EWG first. I'm like, oh, okay, I need a new shampoo. Like, I just go right there, and it's always such a trustworthy source to like find a new product.
I love EWG too. I think, like I said, it's like the gold standard when it comes to like healthy living. They also don't just do like cosmetics. They do like personal care and other things too. So, and they're always expanding into new categories. So, yeah, I just think it's a great, easy, accessible resource.
I love it. I'm hooked. It's so easy.
It's
How
so
are
easy.
you? I mean, you have 8 other competitors right now. How are you differentiating yourself between those?
Yeah. I mean, the scent, I think the scent and the performance. I'm obsessed with our scent too. I
What does
think
performance mean?
performance meaning like the wear time.
Okay.
So it's super long lasting. Like this perfume, it lasts, I mean, like over 8 hours. I've had people tell me like I can smell it on myself the next day or like on their sheets or whatever. So it really is long lasting by itself. And then obviously when you layer, it creates an even longer lasting like scent experience, which is amazing. So yeah, scent and performance. But honestly, like the more clean perfumes, the better. Like it's great. Like I think there's like room for everybody, especially if it's like clean, ingredient transparent, all of those good things. And in a way, it honestly helps us too. It's like, from a business standpoint, because they're also providing like customer education around clean ingredients and things like that. So ultimately, it's a win on all fronts in my book.
Right. Everyone aspires to the vanity with like their 10 perfumes that they just choose the scent of the day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I love that. Like Amal is like a very everyday scent, and it's kind of like a great base scent that like really can take you from morning to night. But I'm also excited to continue expanding into different scents for different moods or whatever. I'm somebody also who like switches up scents just depending on my mood.
One of the very first brands that I started using when I transitioned to a non-toxic lifestyle, and one that I've consistently kept purchasing products from, is Primally Pure. They have such simple yet effective products for skin, body, hair, home, and baby. They use ingredients that you can just recognize and understand when looking at the ingredient label. They also source their ingredients from farms that prioritize soil health as well as regenerative and sustainable practices. So you just know that they are the highest quality products and you can feel good about purchasing and supporting them. Okay, some pillar products that I recommend. First, their charcoal deodorant. This is the one and only clean, non-toxic deodorant that actually works for me. I've recommended it to so many people who are also now hooked. Their baby balm, even though this is for babies, this is what I use as my alternative to Aquaphor or Vaseline. I have it in all of our cars, bags. I keep it next to the bed. It's so hydrating and nourishing. I use it on my lips mainly, but also all over my body. I sometimes get eczema and just like dry, irritated skin in the winter, and it's been a huge help for that. I also cannot live without their spirulina soothing mask. I do it at least once a week. I'll do some sort of clay mask and then the Primally Pure soothing mask afterwards. Not only does it make my skin so bouncy and restored, but it also just smells so good. I swear it has like aromatherapy benefits. I'll do it every Sunday on my self-care Sundays, and it just like resets me back for the week. I recommend the soothing mask for people with dry skin, and then for people with oily, combination, or acne prone skin, I recommend the clarifying mask. Other Primally Pure products that I love are their body butters that are made with tallow. The almond and vanilla one actually makes me smell like a cookie. Their cleansing oils, their dry shampoo, their candles, shower steamers. I also gifted their lip oil to a few people over Christmas, and I've heard wonderful things. You actually just can't go wrong with anything Primally Pure. I have tried at least a dozen of their products at this point, and I've had such wonderful experiences with every single one of them. They also ship completely plastic free, which always gains points in my book. Every time I use something from Primally Pure, it really feels like I'm treating myself. All of their products just have a very elevated feeling and scent. I always say that I feel like I'm at the spa when I'm using Primally Pure. I am so happy to tell you that I can get you a 10% discount off of all Primally Pure products if you use the code DetoxYourDome at checkout. That is DetoxYourdome for 10% off at checkout. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We are almost finished, but before we wrap up the conversation, I just wanted to let you know that I worked with Ella to get the listeners and followers of Detox Your Dome a very special 10% off discount of all Layermor products. You can get 10% off if you visit layermor.com/detoxyourdome, or if you use the code DetoxYourDome at checkout. I will link everything in the show notes, but I just wanted to make sure you did not miss the opportunity to get 10% off any and all Layermor products.
How do you first like scent testing? Do you bring in like a trusted partner, or are you going like completely solo? What's the testing process?
Yeah, so I actually just started R&D on the second scent. So
Nice.
we're like it's kind of in the thick of it right now. So I work with my manufacturer to like formulate the scent, but I come to the table with like, this is what I want. These are the comps, like the comparisons, right? So, we love the scent profile of this. Like, can we bring in some of this? ultimately I want all of our scents to be able to layer together too, which I think is really fun. So this next scent will layer well with the current scent. But yeah, it really just comes from one, what I want, but also what our customers want. So the second scent is like by far in a way like our most requested scent.
I'm so excited.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Are you planning on expanding to more products outside of these three?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually have a perfume oil launching next month,
nice.
which is like a roll on for like your pulse points. It's a little, I love fragrance oil and perfume oil because it's just a little bit more intimate. There's like less silage, so like you can't smell it like if you're super far away. It's just more intimate, right? Like people can smell you when they go in for a hug or whatever. It's also like in a smaller component or like a bottle, so like you can kind of like take it on the go with you. So I'm excited for that rollout. And then I have a few other things that are like cooking.
What's the difference between like say you're going out, you're buying perfume, like eau de toilette and like parfum? Like how do you like what does all that mean?
What does that mean?
Yes. Once I learned the differences, it like unlocked a new world for me. I was like, oh, this is why it doesn't last a long time. So there's different categories of like there's the straight parfum and then there's like an eau de toilette, right?
Okay.
And the differences of each is like the oil concentration, so the fragrance load, and it can vary. So the higher the oil concentration, so our parfum has like 20 to 30% oil, it's going to be much more long lasting.
Okay.
And then you have like an eau de parfum, which is like 15 to 20%. Eau de toilette is like 5 to 15, and then eau de cologne is like less than 5%.
Oh, okay.
So why would you want less than 5%? Like, what's the benefit there?
I don't know. Like some people,
it just sounds like cool. You're like,
one, it's like cheaper for brands to produce.
Gotcha.
So yeah, the less oil, it's just like the cheaper because it's just purely like water and alcohol content. But some brands, like I know Jo Malone does a lot of like eau de colognes, and I love her scents, but they don't last longer than like maybe an hour.
Yeah,
at best on me. Yeah. So yeah, it just kind of depends what the goal for fragrance is for you. Like sometimes it's just to like boost your mood, and it really has like scent. That's what I think is so powerful about scents. There's like such aromatherapy benefits to it. It can boost your mood and your confidence and all of the things. So it really just depends what goal you have when you're applying perfume.
So when you're formulating, are you like coming up with a formula and you're like, okay, this is the goal scent, but it has a few ingredients that we don't want to use, and then you're trying to find like specific replacements for those ingredients? Or are you just starting ground zero with ingredients you want to use, and then you're like slowly working towards the scent that you like? Like how does the formulation
you
process?
like mixing things?
I'm like potions in my kitchen.
And like you also have to have like a good like definition of certain scents, like I guess like
the vocabulary
needs to be there, like
yeah, there's actually a really cool site called Fragrantica. I can never actually say that name, but it's online and it breaks down the notes of every single perfume. So it'll tell you like, oh, it has like notes of honey as one, or like amber or gardenia or whatever it may be. So you can look at that to get a general sense of like, oh, I guess I really like florals, or I like fruity things, you know? So that's a good barometer to like compare and contrast different scents.
Love.
So it really starts from like, what do I want? What do our customers want? How do we find like a happy medium, right? Like, what is this next stage for us? Or what is this next scent? And then from there, I do like a whole brief around like the feelings I want to evoke with that. What notes I'm thinking of, and some comparable perfumes that I really like that we should kind of like strive for, basically, but with a twist. So yeah, that's kind of the process. Then I hop on a call like with my manufacturers and we debrief everything. And then you also asked about like how it changes just depending on like what scents are available and things like that, and their toxicity. I kind of experienced that with this last scent. Like I quickly realized with them all, like for a second, I almost wanted it to be minty, which is in retrospect probably a horrible idea. But like whatever.
No,
You're having
I
you're having a
can see
minty
it.
craving.
Yeah, I was like,
It's like
toothpaste,
refreshing. I
fresh.
get it.
Yeah, but quickly
You're like, we're
realized,
scratching that idea. Awful.
yeah, no, I'm so happy we vetoed that. But the reason we vetoed it was because it's actually a common allergen. And so that's why we vetoed that real quick. And so, yeah, one thing about like our brand too is we don't use common allergens. EU actually doesn't even allow for common allergens. So a lot of people have fragrance sensitivities and allergies. So, and especially with ingredient transparency, we're obviously disclosing everything to make it easier for people with those sensitivities to actually identify what might trigger them.
How did you decide? Because this is glass. I'm thinking, is there like is that something you were really adamant about, or?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
it was. Glass, I mean, it's more sustainable. You can recycle it, which is great. There's also screw tops too, just in case like we do want to do like refillables in the future. So we have that option, which was really nice. And then also I didn't want to use plastics just because of, the potential of BPAs and whatnot. So I just wanted to be as sustainable and healthy as possible.
I'd love to know more about like your lifestyle outside of Layermor. Like, what are some other low tox things, routines, or like just things you've changed in your home that you would never go back to?
Cookware is a big one. I switched to treated myself to some caraway pans, which I love.
I need to like bite the bullet and do that.
Yeah, they have like really good sales every now and then. So definitely.
I just got their prep and board set and I'm loving it. It's like my first adult pair of adult knives. I've been using the same knives since college, and then before that they're like my parents for 20 years. I'm like, you can only sharpen these so much. Like I need it. Yeah. And now they look so beautiful on my counter.
It makes you like want to cook again too. So I hear that. The other thing is obviously switching from like plastic Tupperware to glass Tupperware is a big one. Water filter.
Okay, tell me more about that. I have not switched over.
The water filters?
Yeah, are we talking like shower or just your regular sink? I don't even have like a, what do they call a Brita? Yeah. I'm going like cold
You're going
turkey.
straight from
I'm
the top.
going like tap water. I'm like, this is great.
We're gonna get you hooked up, Monica. We're gonna get you hooked up.
Shoot. Okay, wait. Tell me, what do I need to get?
I can't remember which one I have, but it's one that like you hook up under the sink basically, so you can get filtered tap water straight from your faucet, which is super convenient.
Yeah, amazing.
I just need to get it. There's no other.
I'll send you a couple links.
Send me the link.
You can visit my shop, my
my god,
for all my recommendations.
Oh my god.
This is why we have Monica here.
Yeah, I'm on the beginning of my low tox journey, and so I'm learning as I go. But I love this. I'm also so curious about like just the challenges that you've had to overcome. Like, what was something that you didn't expect to happen, and like how did you overcome it?
I feel like there's always like fires you're putting out. One thing I guess I didn't really expect was like I'm shipping hazmat technically, so I feel like I'm constantly on the phone with like USPS being like, where's this package? Why are you holding out this facility? Yeah. We abide by like all of the standards too.
Is it because it's a liquid? Like why
it's because it's alcohol based.
Okay.
So it's considered like flammable.
Okay.
So shipping just ended up being kind of just a larger challenge. Actually, our very first retailer, like her shipment didn't even arrive, and I like had to comp her, and like I gave her like a huge discount for her next order and everything. But that was like such a nightmare, as it was my first retailer. It was really trying to make a great impression.
Yep.
But that happens, and she ended up being just like very understanding and grateful that I like gave her the discount and gave it like comped and everything. So she ended up placing like 2 more orders after that anyway. So we have a great relationship.
Nice.
It worked. It did work out in the end.
It did work out in the end. Everything is fixable.
Yep.
And then other challenges, I guess it's just like educating customers about fragrance and undisclosed ingredients and things like that. I think that's always just going to be kind of like an uphill battle because I'm competing with like, Bath and Body Works and all of the things.
Hey, but you're one of 9. Like that's a big freaking deal.
Right.
I know. I'm proud of that. And there's always going to be challenges with it, but it's just been a really fun journey. I always like joke that like my company's taken me more places than any man ever could. Yeah. Like I've met like
I freaking love that.
I just have met like the best people. I've ended up in like the most random places. Like this has just been such a fun like journey and process.
So where can we find Layermor fragrance?
So you can find us at layermor.com, or we have on our socials, it's Layermor Fragrance.
The retailers you're in, are those in specific states? What are, if someone's like in an area where they can go and shop in stores, try the product?
Yeah, we're all throughout the U.S. We have 2 in Bozeman randomly, Honey and Spruce and Salchicha. And then we have one in Chicago, the Sunday Standard. The one in Hawaii, which I don't know if anyone's there. It's like, I think on Kauai, Shipwrecked Kauai. I'm trying to think
if you're in Hawaii, please go check it out. Let us know.
Yeah. And then, of course, LA. I have one at like Anne's Beauty in downtown LA, and then Luca Essentials in like Mid-City.
So can we do a giveaway?
Yes, let's do it. So we're giving away 3 of our products. This is like the scent trifecta. So we have the body oil and our scent Amal. It's really moisturizing. It feels so luxurious. It's so hydrating, and it creates like this perfect base for your fragrance to hold on to. Then we have the Perfume, which is like our long-lasting signature scent. Also Amal, like that clean, warm, everyday, your skin but better scent. And then we have the hair perfume, because hair actually holds on to fragrance so well. And so that's like the perfect thing to top it off. So when you layer them all together, it creates this like really beautiful scent experience. So we're giving those 3 all the way.
Amazing. Details will be on the Instagram, so look out for those. We can't wait for someone out there to try these beautiful, amazing, sophisticated scents from Layermor Fragrance. One note also on the body oil that I love that it's not like a sticky oil. Sometimes when I get like body oils that it's like you put it on and like it only is on like the 1-2 inch area of your arm that you like put it on. You can't rub it around. Like I love that I do like 1 to 2 pumps of the body oil and it just covers such a large surface. Like you can see I've used it so many times and it lasts so long. So
that's amazing. Yeah, we want it to be like lightweight and just super moisturizing. So yay, I'm so happy you're loving it.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Ella, you're amazing, and I'm so inspired by you to be like just like a powerhouse young woman. You're so well educated. You have all the details anyone could ever need to know about fragrances. So thank you so much for your time. My last question, what is one mantra that you're loving right now?
One thing that like popped into my head the other day that I haven't been able to like stop thinking about is like constraints create creativity. So like even though we might have like constraints and parameters in our life, ultimately, like I was seeing it as a weakness, but I think it can ultimately be a strength. And so I was thinking about it like in relation to our marketing budget. I'm like, I don't have a huge marketing budget, but I, in a way it's like forced me to think outside of the box that I don't think I normally would have. So I think I'm starting to like lean into being a small and nimble company, like having these constraints, just embracing it a little bit more.
I absolutely love that. If there's a will, there's a way.
I was just like to say that.
Too much of an open canvas is like, there's no direction there.
Yeah, exactly. So it almost like narrows your scope a little bit and just makes it more manageable.
Yeah.
So that's my mantra.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was such an amazing conversation. I feel like I know so much more about the fragrance industry, what to look out for, what to watch out for. And you've made me love Layermor even more than I did already. So I can't wait to be lifelong customers of Layermor and to watch you continue to grow this amazing business.
Thank you. This has been so fun. Thanks
Ella.
again for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel more confident in your knowledge of the fragrance industry, ingredients to look out for, and how they can impact your health. If you feel inspired by this podcast and are eager to try out the beautiful, wonderful Layermor fragrances, check out my Instagram for giveaway details. You can also try them all for 10% off at layermor.com/detoxyourdome. That is LAYERMOR.com/detoxyourdome. You can also use the code detoxyourdome at checkout for 10% off your next order. Thanks for listening.